Hey, welcome back. And today we're going to have a conversation about uh, finding the right doctor. Um, Having the right doctor is absolutely everything. And I have to thank my very first doctor, primary doctor, that understood and wanted me to achieve all of my health needs. I found her by mistake, which I always think it's so funny how things happen the way that they're supposed to happen. It was at a moment where I had no insurance and I had to look for somewhere that worked with a sliding scale. And luckily, I found this doctor who was just absolutely amazing. And not just amazing, but she was so well versed in working with members of the LGBTQ plus community, specifically trans people. And I went in just for, uh, regular, I think I had a flu or something. Like I was just like really, really sick. And she was like, oh, do you have a primary doctor? And I was like, I don't. And she sat with me and she asked questions like, what are some of your goals for your health? And we spoke about it. And it's so bizarre because it was in such a place in my life where health wasn't really like a priority for me, or not yet, at least. I was young, or younger, I should say. I still had that kind of I'm going to live forever mentality, right? So the idea of looking beyond the now and making goals for a healthy and magical life was just beyond me. But I understood at that moment that that was something, just like everything else that I can safely plan for. uh, Having the right doctor, they'll pretty much guide us to see things in their way, in the ways that they know how to function. Well, long story short, this doctor, um, she had mentors who were not just very, very fluent in trans medical care, but they were some of the leading doctors in Westchester County. So I was very, very fortunate when we talked about transition and what that looked like for me. And it's so crazy because you would think that I would know. And I guess that's why this channel is being created, because I didn't know, right? Even though I finally had accepted who I was and I went through all of the social, uh, you know, formalities, let's call them, by speaking to my family, or little by little, right? So I came out to my brother and then my sister, and then eventually my dad, and then finally my mother many, many years later. Um, but at that time, I had just spoken to my siblings. It was just my brother and my sister who knew. I had socially come out within my immediate community, from where I live. Um, but I still didn't think that, oh, hello! Everybody welcome Calliope. So I didn't really, oh no. I didn't really think, right, that it was possible for me to step into my transness, nor did I really think that I was worthy, right, enough to step into my transness in that way, until I had this doctor that was able to be my eyes until I was able to be my eyes. And she was able to guide me through some life choices, right, that I had made as a young person. Um, Drinking was a big thing, right? In my 20s and in my 30s, more so in my 30s. I don't think I really drank that much in my 20s. But she was like, well, if you're going to start this journey, you shouldn't really be drinking as much as you are. And you also shouldn't be smoking. And I was a smoker, and I loved smoking. I loved smoking so much. And there was nothing like having a martini and a cigarette at the same time. And not to discredit like anybody's experience, like I know that there are plenty of trans women that still are able to enjoy cigarettes and martinis on occasions, but I wasn't that queen. So we had to kind of like navigate through all of that. And she didn't say I couldn't, right? She said, let's start your journey in this contained way. So when I first started transitioning, I was on patches when it came to estrogen. When you start taking estrogen, there is a higher chance of cancers and things of the sort. So, alcohol being so acidic, and cigarettes, I mean, with so many chemicals and carcinogens, like just the odds would have been against me. And she really wanted me to, step into a healthier lifestyle before I started taking my hormones in ways that were going to expedite my physical transition in a way that, yeah, they wanted. So I started with that, and I started with testosterone blockers. I was on spironolactone, and I would take one in the morning and one in the evening before I went to bed, and I would have my patches, and I would change it every few days or whatever. And then once I was able to stop drinking and stop smoking, then she transferred me over to injections. And that was like, whew, it was life altering. I literally felt like Aphrodite when blowing through my hair. And it just felt absolutely magical. And the journey still continues, right? Like I graduated from spironolactone into progesterone, and that was again another level of just magic for me that I really, really enjoyed. And slowly but surely, I've gotten to the place where I am today. And of course, then I had to kind of like navigate my health in different ways. So of course, now I have parted now many years from alcohol and cigarettes, but then I had to kind of overcome my weight. Again, it's just one of those things that when you're taking these medications that are life-saving and life-altering, they do come with their side effects as well. So I want to make sure that I give myself the best opportunity at living the most magical and delicious life that I can, because I deserve it. I deserve to live this beautiful and magical life. So I started, working again with my doctor, and she guided me, referred me to a nutritionist, and I'm going to reiterate this many, many times throughout all of these videos, and a mental health provider that was going to be able to support me through all of the challenges, not just of the transition, but also of the weight loss. Also navigating, the not having the alcohol and cigarettes, which were such a crutch for me for such a long time. And today, there was a moment which I will speak about maybe in another video, of balancing hormones. So right now, I'm at the place in my medical transition where, I'm fine. And then some moments, there are some times where my estrogen is too high or too low, and my doctor's gonna have to like switch it up a little bit and make sure that I have the perfect cocktail to have me live and be healthy and authentic as I can be. So, Calliope, you want to share a little bit about your, yeah.
So when I first started, I did my research, and my main concern was that my family history with cirrhosis of the liver was like right at the forefront of my mind, and I saw the complications that my father went through with his liver. So I wanted to make sure that what I was going to put in my body like this with this type of medicine that I wasn't gonna like kill myself. So it's nerve wracking. It's just, you know, when you research, when you do online research, you just, there's so many things that you you read, and then you're kind of like, whoa, like, you know, you gotta take a deep breath and kind of, like you said, find the right doctor, right? So I started with laser hair removal, and then I found this online program called Plume, and I went on YouTube and I looked up a lot of people's experience with Plume, and saw that, you know, most of it was very positive. So then I had my first appointment with the nurse practitioner, and I liked him. He was based out of New York City, but I pretty much didn't have a place to go to kind of like sit down really whenever I wanted to. It has to always be an appointment. Like, I mean, you know, when you go to the doctor's office, you have to go to an appointment, but this one is a little bit more difficult. And so I got my blood. He said, you know, he didn't really go into detail. He was just like, okay, you know, perfect. Like, you know, you're healthy. Like, with your blood tests, your livers are good. Your liver analysis is good. So then I started injectables, and within a year, I saw my changes and loved it. But it was like an emotional roller coaster. The highs were highs, the lows were lows, and they explained this to you, but it wasn't until I actually found like a physical place at the place that I go to now, and that doctor, it was just life-changing, right? Once I started working here at the Pride Center, they referred me to, like, you know what, not that that Plume is bad or anything, but try this type of doctor, try this way. And the care is completely night and day. And then I was there my first appointment. I was there for like 2-3 hours. Like, the doctor was just like really going into detail about everything. I was telling them about like how my mental health was, how sometimes I feel really low, and then that's when they prescribed progesterone, and that helped out so much because the progesterone helps to like just balance you out, especially at nighttime. But it's so important, like what Alessandra was saying about having a good mental health provider, because just in the hormone spectrum of like the highs and the lows, if you don't have anyone to like talk to about like, is this me or is this the chemicals that are in my body? Because sometimes I'd be agitated. Sometimes the hunger was real.
Oh, the hunger. It's so much.
And I'll be honest with you, right? I gained so much weight. And it wasn't just the estrogen. It was right after my first surgery with my chest surgery. I gained like probably around 60 pounds, right? It's difficult because I had lost a bunch of weight. So to be at the heaviest right now that I am, I have to remind, I have to be kind to myself. I have to just, be like, okay, well, I'm here. I got this way because, couldn't, control my urges of eating here and there and just eating at the wrong times and not that I didn't watch what I was eating. I knew what I was eating was bad and wasn't good. But, sometimes you just go through these phases in life that just, gain pounds. Like, it's okay. Like, it's totally fine. I am chunky.
She's juicy, honey. She's a juicy girl.
But honestly, I don't feel the best, right? I don't feel my best. I don't fit into some things. And some of it also is that the distribution of weight. I remember the doctor saying that it's going to happen once your body has these two things in you, these foreign objects, you're going to gain weight. But I wasn't prepared. And I think that right now I'm just like, whoa, I'm like right before summer. I was like, I felt so good last summer, and now I'm just like, okay, I'm heavy right now. And I went through like this little phase of like beating myself up, like how could you let this happen? And like, trying on dresses, I feel, and I'll be honest, I'm like, I feel disgusting. I feel just gross about myself. But also today, like again, it's a day by day, right? Today I'm like, all right, there's things that you can do, right? Be really more mindful of what you're putting in your body. It's beautiful out. Start walking, doing things to kind of help my own mental health. And it also helps like with the estrogen, the progesterone, with all of that stuff that you're um, using to get to where you want. If you're mindful about all of it and not just like you know just you're so excited and you're blinded by like, okay, I wanna get into my transition as quick as possible and this and that. If you're mindful about it, you know it's gonna be an easier quote unquote journey. um and again, it's helpful to have these type of discussions because Alex and I, we've talked about it when we're like hungry or we're in our bitchy moods and this and that, and we sometimes have to remind ourselves, like we're like, hey girl, like, you know, this is all par for the course. Oh man, it definitely is a journey.
It is a journey, and navigating through a lot of the emotions that come along with hormones. Um, there, it's something that we would have had to do whether we were on estrogen and progesterone or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
Testosterone comes with its own set of navigating through uh, all of the things that come along with that. But one of the things that through this journey I have learned, with the support of having again community, and we get to bounce off. We're very fortunate that we get to bounce off a lot of things with each other, but we have to be kind to ourselves. We have to be kind to ourselves because this is just what it is, right? Like, we're going to feel the dysphoria. We're going to feel the angst of why can't I lose this belly fat, which is like.
And meanwhile, I look at her and I'm like, girl, you look good. You got that 1970s body. And I told, when I saw that post of that Jill put and then the before and after, and I'm like, oh my god. And I'm like, and you still beat yourself up sometimes, it's valid. It's like, it's so valid. But like, we also, if we're gonna beat ourselves up, we also have to recognize how far along we've come, because I think we've done that where we're like, okay, we're beating ourselves up for this, for that, like something my beard is growing, this and that, and all this dysphoria.
I love when you talk about you're like a bird.
Because you know what? I know, because I'm like, I look at my Latina sisters. We are blessed with like being very the Spanish cherry jeans,
Yes.
and I'm like, I'm not the only one. So it's like, this is one of my cousins, my who's female. She was hairier than I was, hairier, and I'm just like, this is something that we go through. It's natural. It's fine. It's and then going from where I started to today, I'm like, oh my, you've come far, and then you've come far too, and we have to also recognize the wins if we're going to just recognize our faults and stuff.
Yeah, it's like going back to thoughts are not facts, right? Like, I also think that you're absolutely gorgeous. I say it all the time. She's such a beautiful woman. And in our own minds, I'm sure that we can find a million and one things to destroy about ourselves. But I think that that's not just a trans woman thing. I think that's an all woman thing.
It is an
right?
all-woman
I
thing.
think that as long as we're living in a world that sets standards and expectations for how we get to live, or be, or what makes a beautiful woman, what makes a desirable woman, what makes a woman of value and of worth, we're always going to find ourselves nitpicking at the little parts of us that are not in close proximities of the things that are desirable or conventional by any means. But I love where I am. I love being me and getting to experience life through the eyes of my authenticity.
And I'll be honest with you too, Alex, like a big part of that is also the doctors that I've had that like planted those seeds in the beginning to say, hey, this is what they didn't just like come in and like, okay, what are you looking for this? What are your goals? Like they actually listened. Like they saw us. Like they heard us. There's a big difference in just like someone listening and then someone like seeing and hearing you. Because I told them like exactly what my goals were and what I was afraid of, and they took all of that into account. And they were like, "Listen, you're gonna feel this, you're gonna feel that. This is what you know. This is what some trans women have gone through. You know, it's an experience for it's a different experience for trans women, trans men. Um, all it's a huge spectrum, right? But but that care, that kindness, um, they uh, they really it matters so much. It matters.
Absolutely. What are some things, Calliope, if you had to? Sorry, one of our kids
Mhm.
is leaving. One of our young adults is leaving. Um, what are some things, Calliope, that for somebody who is looking for a doctor to start their journey with, what are some questions that you would suggest that they ask this doc, who's that, whoever they're interviewing for the position,
Yeah.
right? Because you don't get to, yes, of course, insurance is going to kind of like create limitations as to where you can go, but within your network, you'd be able to, ask the questions that you need to ask in order to make sure that you're getting the right person, right? So, um, what advice do you have or suggestions do you have for people to ask these doctors that they're interviewing for the position of their primary care?
So that's a really good question.
Yeah.
And actually, I remember Lauren, our like health director, really helped me navigate all that as well. The first question is to ask yourself, what are my goals, right? And I did and was like, well, my goal is to transition, But it's like, what does that look like to you? What does it look like to you in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years, in 5 years? And I was like, oh, here we go, like homework, right? But then when I really took that into like consideration, like these questions, I was like, wait a second, actually, it was so fundamental to like my transition. The good foundational question that I had for myself was, what are my goals? Like, what does it look like 1 year from now, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? And I was like, okay, for me, like how do I get to one of my biggest goals was to get top surgery. And because I knew that was a major dysphoric area for me. And my question was that these doctors, like, I don't want them to just like, you know, just okay, this is what I recommend, this and that. I want them to actually like listen to like liver disease is really important for me. I was worried about the blood clots that they said. I was just, like, what experience do you have with this? That's really important. And when you have those type of questions, and whatever question you have, if you'll feel it, that passion with the doctor, and the two doctors that I've dealt with have had that passion, and I think you'll know. It's like, oh, I met the right person. It clicks.
It really does click. Like when you have the right doctor and they're taking you through all of the discomfort of all of the things that I encountered, right? Like, oh God, I love my doctor so much. And then I lost my doctor, right? Because she left the practice and that was devastating. But they understood the importance of hiring. I mean, it was for trans care, so they understood the importance of hiring somebody with the same experience, or even, maybe even more than my first doctor. And my new doctor is also phenomenal. Also a woman, which for me, that was a very important thing. I didn't want to go through this trans journey with a man as my doctor. And not because I don't trust men or I don't believe in men at all. That's not the case. It's just my comfort level, right? I know that a woman would be as intentional as I would be were I in the same position, or at least I felt that way, right? And I wasn't wrong. Even though they have had male mentors, they've been able to kind of like navigate my healthcare in a way that feels safer and more magical to me. That may be my own stuff, but
No, that makes sense. Yeah, I've had both male and female doctors. You know, not knocking male doctors. He was wonderful. He was great, but there's a certain level of like care that women have, especially women who are LGBTQ. It's such a different experience, you know. And then like for my mental health provider, a woman of color is just it just deeper. Like for me at least, it works.
yeah, absolutely. I've heard that a lot too. My mental health provider is a white woman, also amazing though. But I had to seek out and I had to interview many for the position, right? Because it's not just anybody that's going to be able to completely understand. Like, find somebody who you don't have to, especially when it comes to mental health, that you don't have to like sell your existence to them. Like, they should just believe you when you tell them who you are. If I found myself having to justify my existence to someone, I knew right then and there that they were not for me. So a second question that I would ask, I love the asking myself the question, but then the first question that I would ask the doctor is, how long have you been working with trans clients, trans patients? I think that that's extremely important. There's going to be a lot of novice people who are just starting out working with trans people, and they're going to make, without knowing, I don't even think it's intentionally, they're going to make a lot of mistakes. And a lot of those mistakes, some people are able to kind of like navigate through. I don't want to, not in my healthcare. I don't want to have to feel uncomfortable, especially since, you know, this is literally my body. This person is in charge of my health, of my life, of my
Don't
living.
settle. Yeah.
Don't settle.
You deserve the best. Like, and if that's something that, you know, for me it's different. Like, I'm willing to work with a doctor that's like, I think when I feel it, like, who's eager to like learn, and I'm open to that, right? But if you have that, you're like, I don't want to. You do not have to settle for it just because you may seem desperate to get your FFS, your top surgery. You have a goal of like whatever, like, oh my God, the world is gonna accept me, you know, quicker if I'm female. It's like, they don't. Like, it doesn't.
I'm gonna tell you, I mean, I don't have any surgeries, but I've spoken to it's a lot of estrogen and progesterone. I love how you're like, it's all natural. I'm like, girl, I don't have any surgery, but I didn't want top surgery. I knew that I didn't want top surgery. There's other surgeries that I do want. Just for clarification, it's not because I know that there's a lot of like people who are like, oh, I not me. No, there's definitely stuff that I want to get done. No matter how bad you want like your surgeries, missing. There's a lot of bad doctors out there. There's a lot. I mean,
but be honest, there's
a lot of bad doctors out there.
There's so many bad ones.
Do your research.
I don't want to look like cartoon character.
Yeah, know what you want. Know what you want to look like. Like, there are some people who look. I definitely don't want to look like a cartoon character. Like,
but there's some that want that, and that's fine.
There are many people who do want that, and that is fine. So we should definitely wrap up this conversation. Okay, so Here they are. The questions, there's two questions. That's all we were able to come up with. Two questions and one suggestion. The question that first that Calliope
Yeah.
shared was,
What are your goals?
what are your goals? You ask yourself that question. The second question that you ask your doctor is, what is your experience working with trans people? How many trans people have you guided through their journey?
Because just settle, because that may be the only. I mean, I know that may be the only doctor in your area, but I promise you, like, you can definitely find, where there's like that will of just like trying to search for that right one. It will show
yeah,
up.
and it's your life, it's your body, it's all of the things. So then the suggestion is not to settle, right? So the first, ask yourself, what do you want? What do you want to be like? Who do you want to live like? Who are you? Pretty much,
Yeah.
is the question. The second one is, how many people have you worked with, or what is your experience, or working with trans people? And then the suggestion is to not to settle. And that's it. That's all we have for today. I really, Callie, I'm so glad that you were able. This was like impromptu. She was not supposed to be here, but I'm so glad
Because
that you
you know
showed
what? I
up.
told her, I'm like, oh, I feel so ugly.
Honey, you're literally gorgeous. Look at her. Look at her. Well, thank you so much for another episode of what's the name? Ageless Authenticity, Reinventing Radiance. And we'll have many more conversations about doctors and the beginnings and the journey. And I'm really excited to connect with some other trans women that are going to be joining us at some point, discussing their journeys and their lives. I'm really excited because all of our experiences are important and they're different.
So different.
So different for each and every one of us. And there's always going to be similarities. But, oh God, I think it's so amazing when we can share these things and make it easier for the ones that come after us, right? And hopefully that they can share that with the ones that come after them. Because this life is worth living beautifully, magically, and deliciously for the love of us.
Bye.
Bye.